Again, thank you so much for having us. I appreciate everyone listening and taking the time out of their day. My name is Shalara McKenzie. Just a quick background. I started off in the military, in the Army. I was part of some multinational joint operations while I was serving. I had some university teaching experience, specifically genetics. My background is sort of biology and physics. And I helped start a 501c3 organization for small veteran small business owners in 2023. So I have some experience as far as that side of things. Monica, if you want to introduce yourself. Or do I have to?
No, Monica, you are muted.
Okay.
All right, let's restart this. Hello, I'm Monica Olson. Nice to meet you. I have bachelor's in psychology with little booster associates in sociology and biology. I have a long-term extensive history in a lot of grassroots political organizing, ranging from students against the Iraq War when I was 14 years old to a lot of work recently. So I am here for a little bit of political edge and also a little bit of navigation as far as legalities and law. Let's see. I was moderating a live stream during the pickle situation. That's how I was introduced to this whole process. And I am here to offer my skills and fill in any gray areas as Shalara's backup vice president. And that's about the nutshell of who I am right now.
Okay. Thank you, Monica. And it looks like Olivia is not here yet. Okay. So we'll, unless I'm mistaken, she'll be our lead biologist. And if she is able to drop in, she's working right now. So if she's able to drop in, we'll just kind of skip her introduction for now. Let's go back to this. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Let me get back on here. Oh, there we go. Okay. So, we're all here largely in response to what happened in November, but it's part of a bigger problem. I just want to show that we have done some research on this and understand there's a rising entanglement problem that I know you guys are already addressing through some of the take reduction team efforts. And but the sort of stranding complexity, especially on the rough Oregon shores, is something I've been discussing with lots of marine biologists. There's more phones, drones, social media, the ability to activate people than I would say ever before. I know we got notice, I actually got notice Saturday night, but we heard about, I really saw my notice at 5 a.m. and we were there in a couple hours. I got there just after the officials did. And it was just in some ways really inspiring to see how many people wanted to help, and then distressing for everybody involved with some of the confusion and stuff that followed. The limited authorized responders and the higher risk and liability exposure, especially, again, on the cold, rough Oregon coast. And then there's lots of, obviously, online public pressure to intervene, but nobody wants to cause harm to the whales. So it's, to me, a community problem at this point, and how do we solve it? Why now? Like I said, phones, drones, all that kind of stuff. Technology has actually expanded and improved, and that doesn't just lead to more reports or more responses, but we could actually act faster if we implement it in the right way. And we wanted to see if we could help expand how reports are submitted and things like that. The public involvement, like I said, is already happening in, good or bad, it is happening. So I'd like to discuss about how we could train some volunteers to be able to do those things. Obviously, none of the organizations want to take on the risk of people in water around whales. We'd like to look into how we could actually do that with some of our legal team taking care of informed waivers and training and things like that that would make it safer to do what the community wants to do. It would help NOAA meet their take reduction goals and help expand their capacity limits and coverage gaps. So the coverage gaps that I talked about, California and Washington have tremendous stranding networks. Comparatively, Oregon has very few, and they're limited to Newport and I think Astoria is where Portland Institute is. It's on the next slide. We would, excuse me, we'd like to see if we could move that network with trained professionals further south so we could respond along the entire coast, especially in areas that have high levels of commercial traffic for fishing and crabbing, along with whales who are all there for the same reason, right? Like the fish and ecosystem. So you have boats and whales in the same place, higher reports, higher takes, higher all those things. And so we'd love to see if we could move some of the stranding network in cooperation with the existing one further south along the coast. And then I have one green dot there for a hypothetical location, but really the goal would be to have volunteers spread out along the coast in a way that would facilitate more reports, more and faster responses. After November, I guess it was 17th, I reached out online and was overwhelmed with the response. I almost can't read these. It's so amazing how many people reached out with so many resources from their own biology degrees, which are super important for this effort, but also just willing and able to help. Excuse me. We also have search and rescue people with heavy equipment, people who have property that they'd be willing to house people with the ability to have childcare and pet care and all kinds of stuff. I've talked to engineers and accountants and lawyers and just the general public who would donate their time willingly, are happy to show up and happy to go through training in advance so they can show up, happy to sign waivers so that it's all done safely, all that kind of stuff. I know this is all way too much to read. I tried to highlight the really big things. It's everything from photography and drones to boats to scuba gear, all that stuff. So we organized this into what are kind of broad skill sets. We have lots of military and medical, lots of nonprofit people. We would expand some of these areas, but plenty of people with conservation background, and I've consulted some of those. Outside of our immediate volunteer network, just with the universities, to get really up-to-date experts in on the discussion. And lots of the first responders in search and rescue are really critical for us as far as making sure everybody's safe and following a sort of incident command hierarchy, things like that. And a lot of this is just hypothetical. It's what the public offered out of their own generosity to say, hey, if they need something, we're here.
Any questions?
So these are the people who have stepped up to kind of lead the organization, and a lot of their credentials are reflected in the previous two slides. But we have accountants and attorneys, lots of biology experience and lots of nonprofit experience. They're all ready to make sure everything's done correctly. We did draft a mission statement, which I would want NOAA's input on to make sure it would be cooperative and kind of meeting all the same goals together. But this is our draft one that we'd be working on right now. We do have some gaps. I'm going to talk about some technology stuff that we would definitely need additional web app AI kind of support for, but also the trainers. One of the things I initially reached out about was how do we get people past level 1, mammal response training, and it's still not entirely clear to me how to do that, but I think overall the Oregon coast probably could use more level 4 and 5 trained professionals along the coast so that we can respond a little faster. That's expanding that capacity that I talked about. Also, veterinarians haven't even started reaching out to these, but it would be interesting to just reach out along the coast to veterinary hospitals and clinics and stuff and see who would be willing to be on call as a volunteer to show up and assess or go to training, so that they could. I'm a little unclear on how exactly that part works with some of the more credentialed volunteers. But those are the areas that I know, both in the trainers for search and rescue and operations and the level 4 and 5 biology marine mammal trainees. Those are areas we would want to expand right away if we were to move forward with this. So overall, our goal is upstream of the entanglements. We'd really like to reduce the takes occurring, and I'll go into detail on all of these, but that is the avert step. When an entanglement occurs or a stranding, the alert step is, we have some ideas on how to help with that. When it comes to assessing a stranded or entangled whale, we'd like to help with that. And then eventually, this is what everybody wants to do, is show up and save the whale. Eventually, with appropriate protocols and training, be able to assist with stranded animals, healthy, young stranded animals who are stranded because of us, essentially, because I know that's not always the appropriate response. On the avert side of things, I've reached out to ODFW to talk about pairing up with the fishing and crabbing industries to take boats out and look for derelict gear in the water, maybe a post-season cleanup. I think this would be really beneficial for the industries. We want that economy to feel supported, but also we want to be caretakers of our waters and support that ecosystem. So a couple of different ways to do that. We have lots of people who just live on the shore and are constantly watching whales and dolphins and stuff. They would be looped into a network that would help spot entanglements or things like that. This already exists, but we would increase the awareness of the phone number to call, increase who you reach out to tell them, hey, it moved this far or whatever. The waterway cleanup that I talked about with ODFW would be more local boats, and then a sort of fundraise for this type of thing. Norway has some really cool underwater drones, and depending on what sort of gear you're picking up, if it's just nets and crab pots, you're looking at sort of sub $50,000 drones in the water to pick up gear. If you're talking about picking up ships, it gets very, very expensive in the $200,000 range, but these things are all proactive things we could do to reduce the entanglements ahead of time. The alert system would be something like beach signs, really secure beach signs that would be a way for people to download the app. We'd love to look at expanding whatever the existing stranding network alert system is into a dashboard that maybe has real-time updates. It pings the right people at the right time, that kind of thing, so that when confirmed reports happen, the network is activated a little faster. And then this is one of my very, very favorite ideas. There's a lock in Denmark that the fish go through, and it's a manual open. There's a webcam underwater, and people all around the world can watch the webcam, and when there are fish in front of the camera waiting to go through, you can ring a bell. When enough bells are rung, people all around the world press the bell, and when enough of them are signaled, a actual person goes and checks to see if the fish are there, and they open the lock and let the fish through. This allows public support and monitoring. I'd love to see this expanded along the coast in places that have cameras near waterways that are deep enough for whale activity. You can have both visible cameras and infrared cameras to see at night, and sometimes even in the fog. You can put acoustic microphones underwater to listen for them. This would allow us to both monitor healthy live whales to slow the boats down. It would also, through especially AI and machine learning, inputting imagery and video of entanglements, you could identify entangled whales a lot faster, both through the public and through the AI models, to signal and eventually have a person go look at the video recordings or audio or whatever and identify where the whale is, if it's in distress, if boats need to slow down, those sort of both healthy and distressed responses. we have a write-up for a pilot study that would have, for sure, 2 locations, one in Newport and one in Coos Bay, and then a 3rd location that I'd love input on. But areas that have high commercial activity, lots of boats, as well as lots of whales in deep water would be good candidates for this, and maybe allow earlier intervention. So all those alerts are great, but if you don't expand the network of people who are allowed to show up and assess, you still have some bottlenecks and slowdowns. So we have lots of people who have taken the level 1 volunteer training, which tells you how to identify the whale and report appropriately and all that stuff. So a lot of this, totally free, is going to already be happening just through public awareness. And I'd love to see how we could get looped into the official network to do this a little more efficiently and quickly in the future, to help make sure that parking is available for officials, to make sure the perimeter is maintained, to make sure nobody shows up if they don't need to. I mean, if it's not a rescue, it's not an urgent thing, that kind of thing. So just streamlining all of the data overall and making sure there's more trained volunteers along the coast. Let me see if I missed anything about that. Nope. Okay. And this is the biggie one. This people want to show up, as we know. We currently have 500 plus people in our general Facebook group who are interested in this concept and kind of watching what happens. We have about 60 some who have filled out forms and said, call me, whenever we're official and ready to go. I'm happy to show up in any way I can. And out of those, I think not in addition to, there's about 17 who would qualify as significant skill sets that could be really contributed beyond just energy and hands and heart. Long term, everyone is very interested in how we can develop research for rescues. Now, for me, the hope would be that we resolve the entanglement issue, and through ropeless gear and cleanups and things like that, we just don't have healthy whales wash on shore. I don't know the timeline for that kind of repair for the shoreline. We have a friend at Southwest Research Institute in Texas who is really good at grants and things like that and getting these ideas developed. I'd like to see if we could figure out the most appropriate plan for the humpbacks that do wash ashore here, and look into projects like, in the picture here we have New Zealand project Jonah, and they have an inflatable whale that they fill with water so they can do training in the water and kind of simulate a whale rolling in the surf and things like that. They obviously have much calmer waters, but the idea being a system that you can get under or around a whale that then inflates on the beach. I'd love to see something that's more modular that can be carried to remote areas, because a lot of these beaches are not vehicle accessible. And this is the super duper expensive, fundraise for it plan. So I've talked about lots of money. I'm hoping I'll get to the budget stuff. Almost there. So I have talked about touching the whale. I've taken the volunteer training, the level 1 training. I know we don't touch the whales. We do not touch the whales without authorization. We do not override NOAA or stranding networks. We do not deploy untrained volunteers. We do not conduct disentanglement, and we don't promise public outcomes. I want to be super, super clear that we are looking to become part of the trained official stranding network, if at all possible, to help expand it. We do not want to do anything against NOAA or overlap any existing efforts unnecessarily. We don't want to duplicate something that already exists. As far as cost and risk and liability, this is not quite the legal one, but we do want to mitigate some of the issues that were discussed on the beach, as far as it's very unsafe for people to be in the water. It's unsafe to be around the whales. There's all kinds of stuff. So we would have informed consent, liability waivers that are appropriate for the state of Oregon. We would have insurance, training, strict incident command alignment, and who's allowed to be there rules. I talked about pet and child care. Those would be people who have background checks and things like that. It's not a sort of ragtag, disorganized thing that we're trying to do. We're just trying to facilitate rescues as quickly as possible. and we wouldn't do anything without authorization. All of the costs I discussed are completely optional. A lot of them have pilot phases. Not everything has to be done at once. A lot of things are totally free, and they would be funded by us as a 501c3 through grants and donations, not funded by NOAA. We're not asking for any kind of budget allocation or increase. So what does this look like for you as the existing marine stranding network? It would be fewer late-stage strandings, cleaner data streams, less public interaction, better public compliance, and clearer decision thresholds, ideally. These are some of our teams that would be in charge of the 501c3 in the top left there. Are like biology powerhouses are in the science and animal welfare team, and the engineers and construction crews are in the operations team, as well as some of our search and rescue people. We also, super important, want to support the existing stranding network in terms of communications, go through some sort of training and be able to update the public consistently with approval on what's happening and why and what's next. And we have some people who already have a lot of sort of on-site experience that would just love to be there as quickly as possible and help with the communication side of things, as well as, and Monica, if you want to jump in and talk about the kind of public relations stuff here, if you don't mind.
As far as like public relations, we need to develop some sort of like training protocols with people that are going to be handling the public and maintaining public just public peace, and making sure that all experts are on the same page and directing volunteers and such in the same route, and to eliminate a bit of the miscommunications that seem to be happening out there, and we doing other problem solving. And so I'm getting to work on trying to figure out some sort of like inclusion and diversity training among the board to be able to make sure that we're all on the same communicative page as far as public volunteers of, different academic backgrounds and whatnot, so that we can be as inclusive as possible. And I've been reaching out as far as other public relations are considered to try to see who the right person is to engage with the land a little bit better as well in regards to our indigenous tribes. A tragedy happened to one of our leaders of Indigenous Now that was initially going to be doing something. So I'm just holding space for her at the moment to get back to me on some navigation as far as that's considered, so that we can move forward in the most holistic and intersectional route possible, and
Awesome.
having the best public interactions possible.
Yeah. Kind of rebuilding some of that public trust as well. Some efforts to kind of bring the public and the institutions together. I think there was a little bit of a schism that was created, and we'd love to help repair that through a lot of the stuff that Monica just mentioned. So thank you, Monica. We would have an initial, this is our ideas for an initial volunteer training program. It would be comprehensive, something that NOAA would sign off on and have thorough input on, the goal being to get more level 4 and 5 trained people along the coast. And there's probably a lot of words here. All of this depends on all of us agreeing on moving forward. But I did look into, we have a paralegal on our team, on our volunteer roster, and I have an attorney that I consulted with about the laws in Oregon, because I talked to rescue organizations in California and Washington, and they said the laws in Oregon are stricter. And we looked into it, and it seems they're not exactly stricter, but there are fewer authorized responders. And so it's a little bit of a bottleneck, and untangling how to do that appropriately is kind of our effort now. we, kind of went through some of the steps it would take as far as involving ODFW and NOAA and things like that. So it's a legal slog, but we would get through it, and we have people on our team to help us with that. So here's our request from you. These are our ideas. We would really like feedback on the potential expansion of the stranding network, what kind of boundaries, what kind of training tiers, off-limits areas, things like that. Definitely not looking for any kind of immediate approval,